The cold wind moved through the empty park benches as the sun began to lower behind the gray buildings of the city. People walked by with quick steps, wrapped in warm coats, holding coffee cups, barely noticing each other. But in the middle of all this busy noise, a small moment of silence was about to change everything. A little girl named Mia sat on a worn wooden bench beside her mother. Mia was only 6 years old, with bright brown eyes and curly hair tied up with a pink ribbon. Her mother, Elena, was a single mom, tired from a long shift at the diner but smiling as she handed her daughter a paper bag filled with a simple meal, 2 cheese sandwiches, apple slices, and a small juice box. "Eat slowly, baby," Elena said gently, brushing a strand of hair from Mia's face. "This has to last till dinner." Mia nodded and opened the bag, her small fingers pulling out a sandwich as her feet dangled off the bench. She looked around the park while chewing, watching pigeons hop around in search of crumbs and a man sitting under a tree nearby. He was alone, hunched over, with a hood covering most of his face. His coat was too big and looked dirty. A torn backpack lay at his side. Many people passed him by, never making eye contact. He didn't move or speak. He just sat there with his hands in his lap. Mia stopped chewing. Something about him felt sad. Not scary. Just alone. She leaned close to her mom and whispered, "Mama, is he okay?" Elena followed her daughter's gaze and sighed. "I don't know, sweetheart. Some people don't have homes. They sleep outside and eat whatever they can find." "Can I give him my other sandwich?" Mia asked. Elena blinked, surprised. "Are you sure? You'll be hungry later." Mia nodded. "I want to. He looks hungry." Elena smiled softly and kissed her daughter's forehead. "Go ahead, baby. Just be careful and stay where I can see you." With careful steps, Mia walked over to the man. She held out the sandwich in both hands. The man looked up slowly, and that's when it happened. For a split second, their eyes met, hers wide with innocence, his shadowed with pain. He hesitated, as if he hadn't heard kind words in a very long time. Then he slowly reached out and took the sandwich. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice rough like gravel. Mia smiled. "You're welcome." He nodded once. Mia turned and skipped back to her mom, unaware of the quiet tears forming in the man's eyes. He took a small bite and chewed slowly, like it was the best thing he'd had in days. What Mia didn't know, and what no one in that park realized, was that the man under the tree wasn't just any homeless man. It was Keanu Reeves. He had vanished from public view weeks ago after a personal tragedy. The world thought he was traveling or taking a break from acting. In truth, he had been walking through cities in silence, hiding in plain sight, hoping to feel something again. And now, a child's simple act of kindness had started something inside him, but this was only the beginning. Keanu didn't say a word to anyone. He watched Mia and Elena for a while longer. He noticed how tired Elena looked, the way she winced when she stood up, holding her lower back. He saw the little girl tuck her small hand into her mother's with trust and love as they walked away. From the park, Keanu looked down at the sandwich again, then at the pink ribbon Mia had dropped near the tree. He picked it up gently, held it in his hand, and closed his eyes. A plan was beginning to form. The next day, Mia and Elena were back in the park. They sat at the same bench. Elena had brought leftover pasta in a container. She handed it to Mia, then leaned back with a tired sigh. Keanu was there too, but this time he was sitting on a different bench across the path. He wore the same coat, still hooded, still quiet. But now he watched them carefully. He had followed them yesterday, not in a scary way, but with silent curiosity. He had seen where they lived. A small apartment above a grocery store, paint peeling on the windows, curtains thin enough to show light through. He also saw how Elena helped an old woman cross the street, even though her own groceries were slipping from her arms. That night, Keanu had returned to his rented room. It was tiny, nothing like the mansions he had once owned. It had one lamp, one chair, and a small notebook he had begun writing in. He scribbled a note at the top of a page. "They gave me something without knowing it." He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he planned. On the third day, Mia returned with a drawing. She held it carefully, a picture of a man with a beard sitting under a tree, holding a sandwich. She walked to the same spot under the tree and placed it down. The man was gone. "He's not here today," Mia said, her face a little sad. But from behind a tree, Keanu watched. He saw the drawing, he saw the effort, and he felt something warm spread through his chest, something soft, something he hadn't felt in years. He waited until they left. Then he stepped forward, picked up the drawing, and smiled. "You remembered me," he whispered. What no one knew was that Keanu was not just planning to thank them. He was about to change their lives forever. Not with money, not with fame, but with purpose. And the first step would begin that very night. Keanu went back to his room and opened his phone for the first time in weeks. He called someone he trusted, deeply, a childhood friend who now ran a non-profit foundation for single parents. "I met someone," Keanu said. "A woman and her daughter. They reminded me why I still care about the world." "What do you need me to do?" his friend asked. "I need a job opening. Something real, something stable, something for a woman who works hard and doesn't complain." His friend hesitated. "You sure you want to get involved like this?" "She fed me when I had nothing," Keanu replied. "And her daughter saw me when the world didn't." The next day, Elena got a letter in her mailbox. It had no return address. Inside was a simple message. "A position is open at Hopeway Foundation, full-time, childcare included. Salary guaranteed. You've been seen." She stared at the paper, confused. "Mama, what's wrong?" Mia asked. Elena shook her head. I don't know, baby. I didn't apply for this." She folded the letter and placed it on the table, her hands shaking. In a city full of strangers, one girl had shared her sandwich. And now, the man she thought was homeless was about to rewrite the meaning of family, one step at a time. This was only the beginning. What came next would leave everyone in tears. Elena sat at the kitchen table long after Mia had gone to bed. The letter from the mailbox lay in front of her, and her eyes kept returning to the sentence. That made no sense. "You've been seen." Who had seen her? What did that even mean? She thought about the man in the park, the one Mia had shared her sandwich with. She hadn't seen him again. But something about that moment had stayed with her. His eyes were sad, but also kind. Maybe he was the one who sent this. "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "That's crazy. He was just a man under a tree." But deep inside, a part of her wanted to believe it. The next morning, Elena walked Mia to school. She still wore her waitress uniform. Her eyes were heavy, but she smiled as she held her daughter's hand. "Be good today, okay?" she said. "I will, Mama." After dropping Mia off, Elena walked toward the diner, the same place she had worked for the last 4 years. Her manager, Ron, was already yelling at a cook when she arrived. "You're 2 minutes late," he snapped. "Sorry, bus was packed." Ron just rolled his eyes. "Table 5 needs clearing. Chop chop." Elena nodded and went straight to work. Her back ached, her feet already sore before the day began, but she kept moving. She always did. Around lunchtime, a woman walked into the diner. She was tall, wore a dark suit, and carried a clipboard. She looked out of place. "Can I help you?" Elena asked politely. "Yes," the woman said, smiling. "Are you Elena?" Elena blinked. Yes, why?" "I'm from the Hopeway Foundation." "You got our letter." Elena's heart skipped. "Wait, you're real? That wasn't a mistake?" "Not a mistake," the woman said gently. "We were asked to reach out to you. Someone saw how hard you work, how you care for your daughter. We'd like to offer you a job." Elena stared, stunned. What kind of job? Administrative assistant, flexible hours, full benefits, daycare on site for Mia? Elena looked around. Ron was watching from the counter, frowning. I don't understand." "Who sent you?" The woman smiled. "Just someone who believes in kindness." Elena felt tears rise in her eyes. "If you're interested, we can schedule an interview, but honestly, it's yours if you want it." She didn't answer right away. Her hands trembled. Ron called out, "Elena, you taking orders or planning your next vacation?" Elena took a deep breath. Then she untied her apron, walked to the back, and never looked back. That evening, Mia came home from school to find her mother humming in the kitchen. Something she hadn't done in months. "What's that smell?" Mia asked, dropping her backpack. "Mac and cheese. With extra cheese just the way you like it." Yay! They sat down to eat together, and for the first time in a long while, the apartment didn't feel so small. It felt warm. "Mama?" "Yes, baby?" "Did something good happen today?" Elena smiled. "Yes, baby. Something very good." Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Keanu sat on the floor of his rented room surrounded by candles and silence. The little girl's drawing was pinned to the wall above him. He stared at it and whispered, "Day 1. His phone buzzed. It was a message from his friend at the foundation. She said yes. Keanu smiled. Not a wide smile, but a quiet one. The kind that grows from deep within the chest. He stood up, pulled on his coat, and walked into the night. Days passed. Elena started her new job. She was nervous at first, but everyone at the Hopeway Foundation was kind. They taught her slowly. They respected her. And for the first time, she wasn't just surviving. She was growing. Maya loved the daycare. She made new friends and brought home crafts every day. "Look, Mama, I made a butterfly." Elena hung every one of them on their wall. She even started drawing again, something she hadn't done since before Mia was born. But the mystery still remained. Who was the man in the park? One afternoon, Mia asked again. "Mama, do you think he's okay? The man I gave the sandwich to?" Elena looked out the window. "I hope so, baby. You did something really kind. I think maybe he's doing better now." Mia nodded. "I hope he comes back." And Keanu did come back, just not in the way they expected. One evening, a letter arrived. No name, just another envelope with a note inside. This one had a drawing. It was the same picture Mia had made, but now someone had drawn beside it. The man under the tree was smiling. Next to him were a woman and a little girl. Mia gasped. "Mama, someone added to my drawing." Elena studied the note. Written in neat handwriting were the words, "Your kindness was the start. I am still here, and I am grateful." "He remembered," Mia whispered. "Yes, baby." He remembered. Keanu, in the meantime, had gone further. He met with his lawyer quietly and arranged something few people ever do. "I want to set up a scholarship," he said, "for Mia, and a support fund for Elena, anonymous, no media, no photos." His lawyer blinked. "That's a lot of money." "They deserve it," Keanu said simply. "They didn't ask for anything. And they gave me something I didn't know I still needed, which is hope." Months passed. Elena got promoted. She now helped train new hires. She started volunteering on weekends. People respected her. They listened when she spoke. Maya started first grade. She became known as the girl who always shared. She made friends easily. Her teachers adored her, but neither of them knew what was still coming. Because one rainy afternoon while they were walking home, they passed the same park bench where everything began, and he was there again, sitting quietly, wearing the same coat. But this time, without the hood, Mia stopped walking. She stared. "Mama," she whispered, tugging her mother's hand. "It's him." Elena turned and froze. The man stood up slowly. He smiled. "Hello again," he said, and for the first time, they saw him clearly. Elena gasped. "Oh my God, that's Keanu Reeves." Mia tilted her head. "Is that a good thing?" Elena laughed softly, tears in her eyes. "Yes, baby. That's a very good thing." Keanu stepped forward and held out his hand. "Thank you for the sandwich," he said. Mia took his hand without fear. "You're welcome." And in that quiet moment, everything made sense. A child's kindness, a mother's strength, and a man who remembered what it meant to be human. But the story wasn't over yet, because What Keanu did next would change even more lives than they could imagine, and it all started with a sandwich. The rain drizzled gently, but none of them moved. Mia stood between her mother and Keanu Reeves, her small hand still wrapped around his. Elena's lips trembled as she struggled to speak. "Why?" she finally whispered. "Why us?" Keanu looked at her, his eyes calm, almost peaceful. "Because you didn't look away," he said. "Most people did. But your daughter, she saw me. She saw someone who needed kindness, not someone to fear. And you let her help me, even when you didn't have much to give." Elena blinked through tears. "But I didn't know. I didn't know who you were," Keanu smiled. "That's what made it real." They stood there for a moment longer, the sound of soft rain blending with the distant hum of the city. "Can we sit?" Keanu asked gently. Elena nodded, and they all sat on the same old bench where it had started. Mia kicked her feet, humming softly. "Do you come here a lot?" she asked Keanu. He chuckled. "Not really. But after I met you, I came back. Just in case." "In case of what?" "In case you came back too." Elena was still trying to understand. "So, the job offer, the scholarship, the letters, that was all you?" Keanu looked at her and nodded. "I didn't want thanks. I didn't want attention. I just wanted to help. Quietly." "Why?" "Because I lost someone," he said softly. "And for a long time I didn't know how to live after that. I walked away from everything, movies, interviews, all of it. I wanted to disappear." He looked down at his hands. "But your daughter reminded me that the smallest moments, they matter. A sandwich, a smile. Someone saying you're welcome like they really mean it." Elena felt her heart breaking and healing at the same time. "You helped us more than you know," she said. "No," Keanu replied. "You helped me." From that day forward, their lives became quietly connected. Keanu didn't become part of their everyday life in a loud or public way. He didn't move into their home or make big speeches. Instead, he showed up in the background, helping, supporting, guiding. He came to Mia's school recital. He sat in the back row unnoticed, clapping when she sang her part. Afterward, he handed her a single sunflower. "For my favorite singer," he said. Mia beamed. He joined Elena once at a community fundraiser, quietly matching every dollar raised with his own. And when Elena's landlord said rent was going up, a mysterious letter arrived saying the building had been bought and rent would remain the same. "I think he bought it," Elena whispered to her friend. "No way. Why would he do that?" Elena smiled. "Because that's just who he is." But not everything was smooth. One day, a local reporter spotted Keanu walking out of the foundation office. A blurry photo appeared in the newspaper. Keanu Reeves, helping at local shelter? Questions followed. People started showing up, hoping to see him. Keanu disappeared again for a few days. Elena worried. She called the number he'd given her. It went straight to voicemail. "Just wanted to check in," she said softly. "Mia misses you, I do too." A week passed. Then one morning, there was a knock at the door. Mia opened it and screamed with joy. "You're back." Keanu stood there with a backpack and a tired smile. "Can I come in?" They sat at the kitchen table. Elena poured tea. Mia made him a sandwich. "I thought you were gone," Elena said. "I needed to think," he replied. "I don't want cameras. Not for this." "We didn't ask for any of that," she said. "I know. But when people see me with you, they start asking questions. And then your life isn't yours anymore." Elena nodded. "So what do we do?" Keanu looked at her seriously. "We keep it simple. We stay quiet. We protect Mia's childhood. No interviews, no TV, just real life." "We can do that," Elena said. Mia handed Keanu the sandwich. "I made it myself." He took a bite and smiled. "It's perfect." As months passed, Keanu continued his quiet mission. He expanded the foundation's work. He opened a new childcare center and named it Little Stars. Who are the little stars? A reporter once asked him. Kids who shine when the world forgets to look, he answered, then walked away without another word. Elena began leading workshops for other single mothers, teaching them how to write resumes, apply for aid, and believe in themselves again. She became a symbol of quiet strength in her community. People began to whisper, who helped her? How did she get here? But no one really knew, because the truth was never told in headlines. It lived in quiet drawings, in folded letters, in sandwiches shared under gray skies. One evening, Keanu invited Elena and Mia to dinner, not in a fancy restaurant, but in a small cabin by a lake. He cooked. They sat by the fire afterward, wrapped in blankets, watching stars. You ever think about the future? Keanu asked. All the time, Elena replied. What do you see? Mia finishing school, maybe college. A life better than mine. Keanu nodded. She's special. I know. He looked at Elena, his voice softer now. And you? What do you want? Elena was quiet for a long time. I want to stop surviving. I want to live. Keanu smiled. Then let's start. And so they did. But something unexpected was still coming. A twist neither of them saw coming, because kindness may begin small, but its ripple can reach far places. And soon, someone from Keanu's past would walk back into his life. Someone who wasn't ready to let go of the man he used to be. What would happen when fame knocked again? What if the secret came out? Would the peace they built survive? That question would be answered in the days to come. But for now, a little girl, a mother, and a man who had lost everything, had found each other, and that was more than enough, for now. The quiet life they had built was peaceful, gentle, and full of small joys. Mia's laugh filled the rooms. Elena's confidence grew with every step, and Keanu, though still guarded, began to smile more freely. The cabin by the lake became a second home, a place where worries stayed outside and warmth lived in every corner. But outside that quiet world, curiosity was growing. The blurry photo of Keanu near the foundation had sparked questions months ago. Most people moved on thinking it was a one-time thing, but one person didn't forget. His name was Marcus Hale. He was a celebrity journalist, known for chasing stories others missed. He had followed Keanu's career for over a decade, even interviewed him once years ago, and now he had a feeling something big was happening. He sat in a dark office, scrolling through donation records, non-profit events, and local community news. What are you hiding, Keanu? He whispered. He clicked on a small news story. Foundation opens new daycare. Little stars. In the photo, barely visible in the background, was Elena, smiling and holding scissors to cut a ribbon. Marcus zoomed in. Who's she? He ran her name through his archives, cross-checked addresses, even found her previous job history. Single, mother, former waitress, suddenly working with a major foundation? His instincts flared. This wasn't random. This was a story. Back in the city, Keanu and Elena were walking Mia home from school. Mia skipped ahead, her pink backpack bouncing. She's grown so much, Keanu said. I know, Elena replied. Sometimes I look at her and wonder when she stopped being a baby. You did good, Elena, she smiled. I had help. They reached the apartment, just as a man stepped out of a parked car across the street. Marcus. He watched quietly, camera in hand. He didn't take the picture yet. He wanted more. He wanted confirmation. Keanu looked up, and their eyes met. A flash of recognition. Marcus gave the smallest nod, then turned away. Keanu's heart sank. That night, Keanu sat alone on the cabin porch. The stars were out again, bright and calm, but inside him was a storm. He heard a door open behind him. Can't sleep? Elena asked, sitting beside him. Someone from my past saw us today, Keanu said quietly. Is it bad? Could be. What happens if the truth comes out? Keanu looked down. It'll change everything. Do you want to leave? Elena asked. No, he said. Not unless you tell me to. Elena took his hand. Then we face it together. The next day, Marcus showed up at the foundation. He wore a polite smile, carried a notepad, and pretended to be writing a piece on community outreach. But his questions were too sharp. How did you meet Keanu Reeves? Is he funding this? How involved is he in your daily operations? Elena answered carefully. He supports the foundation. That's all I can say. Marcus nodded, then pulled out the photo from the park. You're in this photo, you and your daughter. Remember the day it was taken? Elena's heart pounded. I don't have to answer that. Marcus leaned in. People have a right to know Miss Elena. They love him. They want to know where he went, why he disappeared, and why he's here. He's here because he's a good man, she said firmly. Not a story. Marcus smiled, cold and sure. Everything is a story. Keanu was waiting outside when Elena left the building. He's going to publish something, she said. I saw it in his eyes. Keanu nodded slowly. Then it's time. Time for what? To tell the truth. 3 days later, an interview appeared online. It wasn't from a gossip site, it wasn't flashy or dramatic. It was on a quiet platform that focused on human stories. Keanu Reeves, sitting alone on a bench, his voice soft, his eyes clear. He told them everything. I disappeared for a while. I lost someone important, I lost myself too. I didn't want to be Keanu Reeves. I just wanted to be someone. He told them about walking through the city, sitting in parks, watching the world pass by, and then he said the words that made the world stop. A little girl gave me a sandwich. She didn't know who I was. She just saw someone who looked hungry, and her mother let her help me. They changed my life. He never mentioned names, never gave details, but the world felt it, and it responded with love. The article went viral, not because of scandal, but because of truth. People shared their own stories of kindness. They donated to the foundation. Volunteers signed up. Other celebrities came forward quietly, offering support without taking credit. Elena's phone wouldn't stop ringing. She answered only the ones that mattered. And when she saw Keanu again, she hugged him tight. You told them the right way, she whispered. I learned from you, he said. Weeks passed. The world moved on. The noise faded again, but something beautiful remained. Mia started 2nd grade. Her teacher asked her to draw her hero. She drew a man sitting on a bench holding a sandwich. Who's that? The teacher asked. A friend, Mia said. He was really sad, but now he smiles again. What's his name? Mia smiled. Keanu. Elena found her rhythm in the work. She became a leader, a guide, a symbol of second chances. Women from all over came to her for advice, and she always listened. Sometimes people whispered, she's the one from the Keanu story. But she never confirmed it, because the story wasn't about fame. It was about kindness. Keanu visited the cabin more often, not as a guest, but as someone who belonged. He cooked with Elena, taught Mia how to skip stones, and read books by the fire. One night, as they watched the lake shimmer under moonlight, Elena asked, Are you happy? Keanu thought for a moment. I'm still healing, he said. But for the first time in a long time, yes. But just when everything felt safe again, another knock came. This time it wasn't a reporter. It was a woman with gray eyes and a folder. She introduced herself softly. My name is Sarah. I knew your wife. Keanu's heart stopped. Sarah placed the folder on the table. She wrote this before she passed. Said you might need it someday. Inside were letters, dozens of them. Words his wife had written, one by one on days when she knew her time was short. Messages of love, of hope. And in one of them, a message that made Keanu's eyes fill with tears. If you ever lose yourself, help someone else find their way. That's how you'll come back to life. Elena sat beside him holding his hand. You found your way, she whispered. Keanu looked at her, then at Maya playing in the yard. Yes, he said, because of you. The cabin was quiet that night. The only sound was the soft ticking of the old clock on the shelf and the slow, even breathing of Mia asleep in the next room. Elena sat cross-legged on the living room floor, her eyes on Keanu, who still held the folder of letters from his late wife in his lap. His fingers brushed each envelope gently. He hadn't spoken in a while, but Elena didn't rush him. She just stayed close. Finally, he looked up. I thought I was done grieving, he whispered. Elena touched his shoulder softly. You were surviving, that's different. He nodded. These letters, they feel like she's speaking to me again, telling me not to give up, even from the other side. What do they say? That she forgives me, he said, and that I need to forgive myself. Elena leaned her head against his arm. You're doing that already. Every day. He looked at her and smiled weakly. You helped me remember how. The next morning, Mia ran through the cabin, carrying a piece of paper with glitter glued all over it. Look what I made. Keanu bent down to see. What is it? It's a wish card, she said proudly. You write something you hope for and then you hang it on a tree. Where did you learn that? We made them at school. I made one for you. Keanu's eyes softened. What does it say? Mia held it up. In big, wobbly letters it read, I hope he's not sad anymore. Keanu took a deep breath, holding back the tears. Thank you, he said, his voice rough. You have to hang it now. Mia said, already tugging at his arm. They walked out into the woods behind the cabin, stopping at a tall tree with wide branches. Keanu tied the paper gently to the tree with a piece of string. There, he said. Now it'll come true, Mia declared. Elena stood behind them, arms crossed, smiling quietly. The wind blew and the paper fluttered like a small flag of hope. That afternoon, Keanu and Elena sat at the kitchen table talking over tea. I've been thinking, Keanu said. I want to start something new, something different. Like what? A program for people who've lost their way. Not just money or shelter. Something deeper. Emotional healing. Finding purpose again. Elena's eyes lit up. That's beautiful. You'd run it with me? Of course. I was thinking of calling it Begin Again. Elena nodded slowly. Because that's what we all did. Keanu smiled. Yeah, it's time we helped others do the same. Within a month, Begin Again launched quietly. No press release, no red carpets, just a room filled with soft chairs, warm lights, and people who needed to be seen. Former addicts, single parents, veterans, runaways. Each of them heard the story, not of Keanu the actor, but of the man who had once sat alone under a tree, hungry and lost, and how a little girl had changed his life. The story spread without cameras. Word of mouth. Heart to heart. People came from far and wide, and slowly lives began to change. One of those people was a man named Devin. He had served in the military, then spent years homeless battling pain and silence. When he walked into the Begin Again Center, he didn't say a word for 3 days. Keanu saw him sitting alone one evening and approached quietly. Want a sandwich? Keanu asked, holding out a plate. Devin looked up, startled. You're Keanu Reeves. Keanu chuckled. Not today. Today I'm just someone who knows what it's like to feel invisible. Devin stared for a long moment. Then, finally, he nodded and took the sandwich. And just like that, a new thread was added to the story. Meanwhile, Maya continued to thrive. She started writing stories and poems. Her teacher said she had a gift. I write about people who feel sad, Mia explained one day. Then I help them feel better in the end. Keanu read one of her stories. It was about a bird who had lost its wings but learned to fly again by trusting the wind. You're really good at this, he said. Can I make a book someday? You can make anything you want, she beamed. Will you help me? Always. But while the family grew stronger, a storm was forming. Marcus Hale, the reporter who had once backed off, had been digging again. This time, not for gossip, But because his editor demanded it. There's more here, the editor said. People want to know why he disappeared, how he came back. Dig deeper. Marcus didn't want to hurt anyone. But pressure mounted, so he began quietly following leads. He spoke to people at the foundation, checked property records, found the cabin. In the woods, and one day he arrived there with a camera. He didn't knock. He took a photo through the trees. Keanu laughing with Elena and Mia as they roasted marshmallows over a fire pit. He hesitated, but he pressed the shutter. The next day, the photo appeared online. No headline, no context, just a caption, "The real life of Keanu Reeves." People started asking questions again. The cabin became surrounded by curious fans within 48 hours. Drones flew overhead. Paparazzi staked out the driveway. Mia cried when she saw strangers at the windows. Elena locked the doors. Keanu sat in silence, heart heavy. "I didn't want this," he said. "I know," Elena whispered. "Neither did we." He called Marcus. "You crossed the line," Keanu said. "I didn't want to," Marcus replied. "But they pushed, I regret it." "Regret doesn't undo pain." Marcus was quiet. "What do you want me to do?" "Come clean." And he did. The next day, Marcus published an apology article. "I took a moment that wasn't mine. I betrayed a man's trust and exposed a child to the world. This story was never mine to tell, it belonged to them, and I'm sorry." The article spread fast. People turned against the paparazzi. Fans began showing up at the cabin, not to take photos but to guard it. They stood along the road, forming a quiet wall of protection. "No photos here. Leave them in peace." Inlay brought flowers. Others left handwritten notes. One said, "Thank you for reminding us what kindness looks like." Inside, Keanu, Elena, and Mia sat together, holding hands. They didn't speak. They didn't need to, because the world had tried to break their peace, but love held it together, stronger than before. The air was different now. It wasn't quiet anymore. It buzzed with voices and footsteps and questions. The peaceful cabin in the woods, once their hidden world, had become the center of something much larger. For days, volunteers stood outside, gently turning away media, crews. Hand-painted signs hung from trees. No cameras, only kindness. Inside the house, Mia looked out the window and sighed. "Mama," she said softly. "Why are they here?" Elena crouched beside her. "Because people are curious, baby. They heard part of our story and want to see more. But it's not their story." "You're right," Elena whispered, pulling her daughter close. "It's ours." Keanu stood in the kitchen staring at the pile of mail that had arrived that morning. Most of it was from strangers. Thank you notes, drawings from children, letters from people he'd never met who felt changed just by hearing what Mia had done. But one envelope stood out. Plain white. No return address, he opened it slowly. Inside was a photo of his late wife, smiling by a garden full of sunflowers. On the back were just 3 words written in her handwriting. "You came back." Keanu closed his eyes. Yes, he had. That night they gathered in the living room. Elena sat beside Keanu. Mia curled up with a blanket in her lap. The fire crackled gently. "I've been thinking," Keanu said. "About what?" Elena asked. "About everything. The noise, the attention, what we built, what comes next." Mia looked up. "Are we leaving?" Keanu smiled softly. "No, not leaving. But maybe stepping forward." "What do you mean?" Elena asked. Keanu reached for her hand. "We tried to stay hidden, tried to keep our story safe. But maybe now's the time to stop hiding. Not for attention, not for fame, but because there are people out there who need to believe good things still happen. Maybe we can show them how." Elena nodded slowly. "You want to tell the story?" "On our terms," he said. "Together." A few weeks later, a video appeared online. No fancy lights, no background music, just Keanu, Elena, and Mia, sitting together on the park bench where it all began. Keanu spoke first. A little girl once gave me a sandwich. She didn't know who I was. She didn't ask for anything. She just saw a man who looked sad and hungry. And she helped. Elena continued, her voice calm and clear. At the time, I didn't know that man would change our lives. I didn't know he would help me find a job, believe in myself again, and give my daughter a future. Mia smiled brightly at the camera. And now we help other people too. Keanu nodded. This is what kindness can do. This is what it means to begin again. The video ended with a simple message. Start with one small act. Everything can grow from there. The reaction was overwhelming, but different this time. People didn't just talk about Keanu. They talked about their own lives. Man who bought groceries for a struggling neighbor. A child who gave her lunch to someone at school who didn't have any. A woman who opened her home to a teen who had nowhere else to go. The story had spread, not as gossip, but as inspiration. The Begin Again Center opened new branches across the country. Keanu and Elena traveled quietly, meeting with communities, sharing ideas, helping set up programs for those healing from loss, poverty, trauma, or silence. They didn't wear suits or give speeches. They sat with people. They listened. They remembered. Mia's wish card stayed tied to the tree behind the cabin. It fluttered every time the wind blew. Keanu would walk out there sometimes and stand beneath it, remembering the moment he tied it with shaking hands and hope in his chest. One day, years later, he stood there again, this time with gray in his beard and lines around his eyes. Mia was a teenager now, tall and strong, her eyes still full of light. I wrote a new one, she said, holding a fresh card. Keanu smiled. What does it say? She read it out loud. Thank you for staying. He tied it beside the first one. I wouldn't be anywhere else. Elena became a published author. Her first book, The Kindness Bench, told their story from her point of view. Not the celebrity part, not the headlines, but the real pieces. The nights she cried alone, the mornings she doubted herself, the moment she saw her daughter change a stranger's life with one small sandwich. The book became a quiet bestseller. Not because of marketing, but because people passed it from hand to hand and said, you need to read this. And Keanu, he didn't return to Hollywood, not like before. He made one final film, not an action movie, not a blockbuster, but a small emotional story about grief, healing, and unexpected family. He cast unknown actors, donated all his earnings to Begin Again. When asked why, he simply said, because this story was never just mine. On the day the foundation's biggest center opened, people gathered from everywhere. There were no red carpets, just benches, trees, and a wall covered in drawings from children. In the center was a glass case. Inside, carefully framed, was Mia's original drawing, the one she gave to the homeless man under the tree. Next to it, the note she'd written in wobbly letters. You're welcome. Beneath that, a plaque read, this story began with a sandwich. It became a legacy of love. Many years later, when Mia was grown and had children of her own, she brought them to that same park bench. She sat them down and told them everything. Was 6 years old, she began. When I saw a man sitting under a tree, I didn't know who he was. I just knew he looked lonely. So I gave him my sandwich. Her daughter blinked. And that made everything better? Mia smiled. No, not right away. But it started something. And sometimes, that's all it takes. Because in a world full of noise, of stories shouted and sold, sometimes the quiet ones, the ones made of kindness, courage, and second chances, they echo the longest.